1, 2, 3, 4. Chop, chop, chop.
It's cure of the what now?
Gather the ingredients.
Cure of the what now?
Not much time to prep before it's time to start the show.
Oh!
Guests are arriving.
Cure of the what now?
Everybody's smiling.
Cure of the what now?
A tasty party starting. Now it's time to go. Woo!
Ooh, served hot and fresh.
Itadakimasu. Hello, fellow victims of the latest attack on Toei and our American values. And welcome to episode 4 of
Cure of the what now? Wait, hang on. Okay, so we can't do yum. There's no delicious party, so cure of the what now?
The one show where we know the other shows that are victims of this Toei hacking, that's just an aside. Whoever did this on purpose to disrupt our podcast.
Of course, naturally.
Yeah. So, quick announcement for anybody who hasn't already seen the news. Delicious Party is on a 3-week hiatus because of the hacking incident that we mentioned last episode. So, that kind of sucks. We're not sure yet how that will affect the season as a whole. Healin' Good had to take 2 months off during the pandemic, and that really affected their ability to tell some of the stories they wanted to tell. Tropical Rouge apparently got hit with delays, and so they missed some stuff. So hopefully it doesn't have too dramatic an impact. I'm going to be really bummed if it messes with Cure Yum Yum.
Absolutely. Also, really quick, if you hear a dog barking in the background, same disclaimer as always, we tried to wear out the puppy, and the puppy has a friend visiting for the next couple of weeks, and this new puppy is even more annoying, even more needy.
Stop calling her annoying.
Sorry.
It's not annoying, it's she doesn't know how to be by herself.
You're right, but she is very needy, and unfortunately she can't be in the podcast room with us, so she's going to be loud and you might hear her in the background.
Absolutely.
We apologize.
Joel, kick me off with a hot discussion question.
Are you not going to introduce yourself this episode?
Oh, yeah. My name is Kat, and I've never been held once in my life.
I forgot about that! Oh my gosh! Is this what warmth is? I'm your co-host, Joel, and I'm a child who refuses to learn how to sing, but I will play gorilla. And now I've become human and I can do a podcast.
The episodes of Sweet this week were super fun, which is a good thing since that's all we'll be discussing for the next couple of weeks is Sweet PreCure and maybe a little bit of Star Twinkle.
Well, and Max Heart.
Well, yeah, but we're only discussing Max Heart today. You said we were going to hold off.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, another announcement, I guess. We want Max Heart episode to line up with the Delicious Party episode that we're on, so we're just going to hold off.
Yep, absolutely. Although I think that we finished episode 5 of Delicious Party, so maybe next week we'll be covering Max Heart 5. I'll figure it out, but once we're on the same episode of Delicious Party as we are of Max Heart, we're just going to watch them one at a time alongside each other.
Okay.
Yes. Now, it's time for our lead-in discussion.
Yes, sir.
And I've done the last 2, so do you have a season that you would like to pitch? I have a backup plan, if you need me to.
Pitch me a season centered around compassion and caring for animals.
I mean, wouldn't they just be veterinarians at that point? Wait, did you just describe Healin' Good?
But animals more than the planet?
More than people in the planet? Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think that you would need... Because, like, Star Twinkle, they go to the observatory a lot, and in Healin' Good, they hang out a lot getting the fruit gummy smoothies or whatever that are good for your body.
Maybe there's, like, a wildlife reserve?
That's what I was thinking, like a conservatory, or maybe, like, there's a zoo, and maybe it's, like, a really cool zoo. Maybe it's, like, one of the biggest in the world or whatever. And, you know, you could do the Manatsu's mom route, where the main Pink's mom, or maybe parents or grandparents, work as, like, the head director of the zoo or something like that. Yeah, and I think each episode would focus on a different animal, and maybe you wouldn't want every episode to be like, you know, oh, this animal's habitat is being damaged, but you could have some episodes that kind of touch on, like, yeah, this animal used to be much more widespread, and now its population is dwindling and that sort of thing. One of the bad guys could be a hunter. Maybe all of them could be hunters, but that's definitely what you could have for one of them. Like some kind of, like, Craven who wants to, like, capture all of the animals or whatever and is very cruel to other people around them. As for the compassion element, I think you would want to go somewhere along the lines of kind of how it worked in Heartcatch, where the bad guys would like take control of the hearts of people and would, I don't know, maybe they could be like selfishness and they could like make people give in to their like greedy desires, and then the PreCure could help them learn that compassion is where it's at, and that helps you make friends and be successful and that sort of thing.
Okay, yeah, I really like that. One thing I was thinking for the bad guys, and this is 100% a Tokyo Mew ripoff, but in Tokyo Mew Mew, they are each an endangered animal. That's where they get their animal ears from and their transformation. And the villains are aliens who don't care about like the earth and its animals.
Preserving them and stuff. Okay, yeah, I could totally get that. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. The villains want to put humanity in a zoo, and the PreCure are like, zoos are good for conservation, but you shouldn't do it without a good purpose in mind.
Mm-hmm. We're going.
Maybe the villains don't care about the animals for their own sake. They just care about, like, I want those feathers for my hair. We don't get those feathers on my home planet.
Ha! Okay, so what if the aliens were actually, like, they liked the feathers of the peacock, and they liked the stripes of the tiger, the claws of the tiger, and what they were doing is they were building the ultimate life form, and, that would be awesome.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And then you could have the ultimate life form be what the PreCure fight in the climax.
Absolutely.
So do you have any other thoughts, or do you want to move on to our actual episode, the meat?
I guess, what would be the best antithetical sort of character that you could have to compassion? Would it be a selfish character? Like, would you have one of the generals be someone who's taking advantage of everyone else in their life or something like that?
I think that's too obvious. I think I would go with apathy.
Okay.
Someone who just doesn't care because they just don't have the energy to or anything. And the PreCure could be like, no, caring about others is where we get our strength from.
Absolutely.
The strongest thing in the world is your heart trying to help someone else.
Mixing is the key to both soup and people.
But not animals and people. Then you get catgirl abominations.
Well, I mean, I think humans and animals can codepend on each other, but yes, I agree. No fusing of the human and animal DNA unless that's the future that you want.
Oh, man. I went in a cursed direction. I'm just going to move past that instead of bringing it out here. We watched Max Heart, Sweet, and we're going to give a Star Twinkle update.
A Twinkle update.
Would you like to start?
A Swump date. That was also
Twink date?
That sounds like it would put you on a watch list or something.
You're on Tinder, and Tinder's like, are you looking for friends? Are you looking for casual hookups? Are you looking for a Swink date?
Absolutely. All right, so Max Heart, Episode 4. Are we on 4? I think we're on 4. Yeah, we're on Max Heart 4. I just checked. Okay, so there's the girl who's shown up, who's very obviously the queen, but doesn't seem to, like, know what's going on.
Hikari.
Yeah, her name's Hikari, and she goes up to Nagisa and Honoka and goes, hey, are you PreCure? And they go, what? No, we're absolutely not. And then the bad guys attack. And Hikari's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And Nagisa and Honoka are like, we're going to transform in front of you and no one else. You're the only person who's ever thought we were PreCure, and we're going to confirm it here in this episode. And they become PreCure, and they fight the Dracula guy, and the Dracula guy's like, oh, I'm so big and strong, you are so small and weak. And they keep punching him, and like, we're going to protect this Hikari chick. And the vampire goes, no, you're not. And then he grabs Hikari, and he's all like, ooh, I'm evil. What are you going to do about it? And then the episode ends.
No. The episode ends with Polun running up and being like, illuminate the light to the future!
Oh yeah, he's saying some weird cryptid stuff that would absolutely drive me insane if I were a child, but since I know that it's going to be a new cure next episode... Oh, she's technically not a cure. She's shiny luminous. Sorry for the spoilers, everyone. I really do not like Max Heart.
Alright, so do you guys remember at the beginning of the episode when we apologized for the dogs making sound? Joel thought, I've got a brilliant idea. As Joel, I'm going to bring the dogs into the podcast studio. So if I start screaming, it's because my gosh dang Aussie is chewing on the chair that I sit in to podcast because she's angry that she's on a leash and not messing with the other dog. I'm about ready to McFreakin' lose it.
Life is hard, people.
I have compassion for animals, and I love them, and they want to be near us. But also, we are running 10 miles before we record next weekend, so they are too tired for any of this.
I just gotta say, the way you said I have compassion for animals sounds like Cruella de Vil trying to prove that, like, I like animals, I just want to skin these dogs specifically.
If I didn't like animals, why would I want to wear them as a coat?
All right. I did forget to mention the most important plot element of Max Heart 4, which takes up the first half of the episode or so, and that is Nagisa draws a chicken, a statue of a chicken, and everyone makes fun of her for it not looking very good, but to me, it looks fairly close to the thing that she was drawing, so I don't understand where all this hate comes from. And also, that the picture of the chicken statue is able to telepathically communicate to Hikari that the Nagisa and Honoka are PreCure.
Yeah, we gotta talk about how mean everyone was to Nagisa. I really liked her chicken drawing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I get that the idea is that Nagisa is a little empty-headed, and she prefers, like, food to hanging out with people, I guess, in some way, and she's not very academic. So I kind of get that that's part of her character, but if they wanted everyone to laugh at her for how bad the drawing was, they could have animated the drawing looking bad. Like, I don't understand. It was a total disconnect for me.
Imagine being the artist behind this episode. I couldn't have made it look bad, actually. I'm just that good.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. Maybe it's like some sick in-joke between all of the writers or whatever. Like, oh man, Steve's such a bad drawing, and Steve's over there with like 5 art degrees and a single tear rolls down his cheek. He's like, you guys are so mean to me. So they took one of his drawings and put it in the episode. I don't know.
All right. Fair enough. Did you like this episode?
No. Mm-mm.
Do you think it is reasonable to keep covering Max Heart this way if every week we're just going to be like, and we hated it? Or should we just finish watching Max Heart and then talk about the season as a whole in one kind of retrospective chunk?
I mean, you are the Cure of the What Now producer, so it's up to you. I think what I would propose is we continue watching one episode a week, with some off weeks if we want them to stay consistent with Delicious Party. And every episode, you will ask me, did anything significant happen in Max Heart? And if I say yes, we talk about it. But if I say no, we just move on.
Okay, fair enough. In that case, why don't we move on to Sweet?
Absolutely. Sweet, sweet, pretty cute. Ah! Now, we watched fewer episodes this week than we did last week. We only watched 2. We watched Sweet PreCure 9 and Sweet PreCure 10. Sweet PreCure 9 starts with Kanade having a dream where Hibiki has her, it's called the Fantastic Beltier, I think, Beltier. And this is a power-up that she received in the last set of episodes that I forgot to mention, but she now has a final attack, but Kanade doesn't have one. So Kanade's dream is that she's useless and Hibiki saves her. And then it turns out that Siren and the Minor Trio also have their own Beltiers, and so does Hummy, and so does her little brother, and so does Oji-sama, so does everyone but Kanade. So she decides that she wants to try to get her own, and if you've seen the episode of Digimon where Tai causes Greymon to evolve into Skull Greymon, you know where this is going. She tries to imitate Hibiki, she tries to eat as much as Hibiki, and she tries to go for a run with Hibiki, and it turns out she's not very athletic, and when Hibiki's like, what's wrong, babe? She basically is just like, nothing's wrong, even though, come on, man, use your words. This is the 9th episode in a row. But when the actual fight starts and Hibiki's in trouble, Kanade's like, oh my gosh, I need to protect everyone's smiles and their hearts. And she gets her own Beltier. Beltier. I don't know why I keep saying it like it's French. Maybe it is French. Hibiki's is the Fantastic Beltier, and Kanade's, no, other way around. Hibiki's is the Miraculous, I think, Beltier, and Kanade's is the Fantastic Beltier, and she uses that to defeat the bad guy, and that's the end of the episode.
Do you want to know something really funny that I just discovered?
What's that?
Okay, so each of the fairy tones are named after one of the notes in the solfa.
Yeah,
so
do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do.
Exactly. The one, and they each are re at the end, so it's like do, re, fa, re,
okay,
etc. The one who gives Hibiki her Beltier is Miri. Miracle. The one who gives Kanade her Beltier is Fari. Fantastic.
Okay, interesting.
I was wondering where they got these names from, and this is not a connection I drew on my own. It's from the wiki, because I was trying to figure out, like, is a Beltier a real thing? It's not.
Okay, it's interesting. I really did think that it was going to be like a real-life instrument musical thing. I will also point out that Hibiki's looks like a wand, but Kanade's looks like kind of two hearts that have been sewn butt to butt, I guess is the best way I can describe it.
So Hibiki's is supposed to look kind of like a bell, and Kanade's is supposed to look kind of like a harp.
Okay. Yeah, I got the harp connotation, but it's kind of like there's two handles, and that's kind of what throws me off.
Absolutely. I wonder if they're going to get power-ups by a different fairy tone plugging into the other end, because there's holes on both sides.
And there's 7 of these tones, and we've only seen like 4 of them. Although, we are now in the era where bonus cures show up every season, I believe, and we'll talk about, some hints towards that show up in episode 10, but I wonder if the other fairy tones are reserved for the other girls.
Imagine if a season just went absolutely balls to the wall and had like 15 PreCure.
I would love that. There was one season of Power Rangers, not Sentai, Power Rangers, where they would save a bunch of different animals, and then they could use those parts to like replace so the left arm was normally the jaguar, but in some episodes they would use the Arctic fox or whatever the case was. And I did like the fact that they had so many different animals that they rescued. I was like, finally, a season where they have more than 5 Zords, but also they only ever use them one at a time. You know what I'm saying? Like, they only show up for one episode and then they never showed up again. So I would love a PreCure season with like 50 cures, but I would want it to feel a little bit more organic than character shows up, character becomes PreCure, character saves the day, character leaves, rinse and repeat,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Did you like this episode?
I did. I really liked the humor of everyone having their own Beltiers. I'm sure at least a few of those are going to go in the thumbnail.
Special shout out to Hibiki's My Power Comes From Rice. She and Yui, same hat.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was great. Did you like this episode?
It was very cute, and it was funny, and I like that Hibiki was like, Kanade, we've been friends, not friends, but also friends since we were children. Like, I know something is weird about you. Why don't you just tell me what it is? And Kanade's like, no, if I tell you, I'll be an emotional burden as well as a physical one.
Also, can we talk about how absolutely useless Hummy is for filling them in on details? Like, Poland kind of does that too, where Poland will be like, oh, the light must accept the rainbows inside the field of dreams. And you're like, what are you talking about? But like, Hummy will just be like, you need harmony power. And they'll be like, what's that? And she goes, I don't know, it's the power of harmony, obviously. And I appreciate the way Hummy does it, because like in Hummy's mind, she's explaining it clearly, but to everyone else, she's not explaining anything.
Hummy, you precious idiot. I like that Kanade tried to ply her with cupcakes to get information about PreCure power-ups. Also, special shout out to Siren and the minor trio in this episode. Siren is not a good boss.
No. So the minor trio actually have collected like a lot of notes. They have a
huge sack full of notes.
Yeah, and Siren's just kind of lounging around, and they bring the notes, and they're like, shouldn't you be working? And she's like, you work for me. And they're like, we do? Really? And when... I can't remember, is this the episode where she goes crazy on the pink guy's hair for some reason or another?
Well, they're having a picnic, and they're talking about how mean she is.
Yes. So... Siren, babe, this is not a good look for you. And this comes immediately after the episode where she pretended to be Sakura, so I'm guessing that she's actually really hurt, but she doesn't know how to express it.
Yeah, she explicitly says in this episode, we're not friends, you're my subordinates. And like, I think you want friends, Siren. I think you would like to be friends with these 3 people that you are working with. There's also a moment at the end of the episode when Green, I'm not going to remember their names, and I'm not interested in trying.
So I know I get annoyed when someone tells me, oh, this is the name you forgot. It's
He's Bassdrum.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Bassdrum kind of looks discontented at the end of the episode, and that comes into play in the next episode. So we're getting a good, solid little Siren arc here.
Absolutely. Also, I believe at one point Bassdrum commands the negatone to do something, and at the end, Siren's like, "What the heck? I control the whatever," and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he sounds very sincere about it, you know?
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you wanted to discuss from this episode?
The girls look cute in their tracksuit, and I love that Kanade is running with Hibiki. And she's like, wow, I'm actually able to keep up with Hibiki. Maybe this isn't so hard. And then Hibiki goes, great, warm-up's done, go! And she just sprints off. And Kanade's like, no! And you see Hummy running. That's such a cute animation.
Our last half marathon, at one point, because Joel and I like to run some of our races together. And at one point, Joel looks up and he goes, you're going really fast. Could we slow down? And I'm like, I'm just going a regular speed, my guy. But yeah, sure, we can take a break. And it just reminded me of that. Joel, I was giving you the opportunity to share the greatest thing this season has done so far. Kanade gets her Beltier. She does the 1, 2, 3 tone ring thing. And then as the monster explodes, she turns and she walks off screen.
It's so good.
She doesn't pose or anything. She just leaves.
Yeah, I really get the impression after seeing Hibiki / Melody's finishing move that her pose is where Tropical Rouge got inspiration for the victory pose, because Hibiki jumps in the air and she looks all joyful as the explosion happens. But in episode 9, Kanade does the same thing, and as the explosion happens, she just turns and she just leaves without saying a word. What an absolute badass that woman is.
She is a queen.
Also, at the very end of this episode, the girls have been practicing piano together for the last couple of episodes, and at the end of this episode, Kanade has found the perfect balance between being the annoying woman that she was to her younger brother, and also being a pushover, so she's able to kind of sternly but gently tell Hibiki, like, we're gonna keep practicing, babe, until we get this song down. And that leads nicely into episode 10, unless you have anything else about 9 you want to talk about?
Nope. Give me that succinct summary for episode 10.
Absolutely. The very beginning of Sweet PreCure episode 10, they have mastered the song they've been trying to learn together, as hinted at might happen at the end of the last episode. And Hibiki goes to her parents, or to her dad, and she goes, hey, we're done practicing piano forever. And the dad goes, what? And she goes, yeah, we only learned this one song and that's all we needed to do. We accomplished our goals, so we're done. And the dad says some German phrase that probably means, may evil fall upon your house or something like that. And then he says, why don't you help me teach some preschoolers? I don't know if they're preschoolers, but how about you, kindergarten. How about you help teach some kindergartners music? And she goes, okay. So Hibiki and Kanade and Oji-sama are helping the dad teach these kindergartners, and boy, are they bad at music. They're unfocused, they can't harmonize with each other, they have ADHD, they're all on their phones checking Twitter all the time, and so they try different techniques to try and get these kids engaged. Hibiki tries being like, hey, please, and they go, no, and Kanade goes, you have to be strict, and she's like, hey, and they go, oh, you like Oji-sama, and so it derails. But eventually, Hibiki decides to act like a gorilla because the kids asked her to. She's like, what can I do to make you guys sing? And they're like, why don't you become a gorilla? And she goes, okay. So she starts like beating her chest and she kind of gets in like a little hunched position and she's like, oh. And they all start doing it too. And she goes, well, this isn't music. But then she realizes, I can use this. So to the beat of the music that Oji-sama is playing, she starts rhythmically doing the oh. And her dad loves it. Oji-sama loves it, much to Kanade's chagrin, and then Kanade eventually decides that she's going to get into it. Siren is watching them, and she's actually, like, laughing and enjoying it. Very interesting.
Siren is there, by the way, because she has fallen in love with Oji, which we will get into.
Oh, yes! That's kind of like a little side plot to this episode. And then at the very end of the episode, the kids do pretty well at singing. And they give Kanade and Hibiki these little, maybe they're clay, but these little monkey dolls to represent the gorilla dance that they all learned together. The bass drum guy shows up and he turns them into monsters. Siren had a chance to turn them into monsters, but she decided not to. She was having a hard time. She was split between two worlds, but bass drum, he doesn't have any of that.
Bass.
Bass?
Bass. It's bass if it's a fish.
How do we know he's not a fish?
Does he look like a fish?
He's wearing a skin suit. Okay. Bass drum. So weird that a word can have two different...
English is a bad language. It's just not good.
Out with the... Okay. But anyways, they defeat the bad guy, and then Hibiki and Kanade realize that music isn't about trying to accomplish your goal, and that German phrase, which meant may evil befall upon your family, was actually music is joy, or I can't remember exactly what it was.
In music there is joy.
Yes.
I tried to look up the exact phrase because we suck and we didn't write it down, but the PreCure wiki doesn't have it. It does have, apparently his habit of speaking German is a reference to how Beethoven is a very common composer in Japanese classrooms, and his hair is also possibly a reference to Beethoven.
I just assumed that maybe, well, I mean, I guess it would be weird that they live in Japan if the mom was from France and he was from Germany, but I just wondered if maybe he was just from Germany and he'd moved to Japan.
Also, her dad's name is Dan.
Oh,
that's extremely funny.
Mm-hmm. Dan the man, he's got a plan. Gonna teach them how to music stan. Anyways, did you like this episode?
Yes, I've decided that Siren is the best.
Siren is so good.
I love her so much. So she is walking around, she's muttering about bass drum from the end of the last episode, she's muttering about the PreCure, and she catches sight of a note, and she goes to jump toward it, and a car comes, and she kind of cowers because she knows she's going to get hit by a car, and this is the moment of her death. But then she opens her eyes and she's not dead, and she's being held by a handsome man who says, "Are you all right, Miss Black Cat?" And she makes a face that I'm not going to describe here. It's better seen than described on a family-friendly podcast. And it shows her floating through a sea of warm things. So she imagines like one of those heated tables that they have in Japan. She imagines a bowl full of soup. She imagines pillows. And she goes, "Is this what warmth feels like? I've never been held since the day I was born."
Yeah. Yeah, okay, all right.
And then she jumps out of his arms and she hisses at him and runs away. And he says, "Haha, see you later then." Yeah,
and at the end of the episode, when she has the chance to get the note, she goes, "Oh no, but that would ruin Oji-sama." So yeah, like you said, she's fallen madly in love with Oji-sama, which creates an interesting triangle dynamic, because Kanade clearly loves Oji-sama as well, and Siren has fallen in love, but Kanade loves cat beans, on the bottom of their paws. So now we have like the sort of, it's not exactly a love triangle, but it's something kind of like
a triangle. Yeah, absolutely. We didn't notice this until recently, but Kanade actually has a poster of just cat paws over her bed.
Yes. It's more like she has individual pictures of different cat paws and she's like connected them by string, like she's trying to solve a murder mystery or something. But I absolutely loved that. We saw that in episode 9.
Did you like this episode?
This episode was great. At first, I was a little bit confused because it seems like the dad was hired to teach these youngsters how to play music, and so it seems strange that he didn't give any advice whatsoever to Hibiki and Kanade about like how to rein them in and that sort of thing. It almost feels like he kind of just like lets people play music and he tells them whether it's good or bad, and that's his teaching style, is just teach on your own and then I'll grade you at the end.
I think if Hibiki and Kanade hadn't been there, he would have just continued to let the kids have fun, and they would have figured it out through having fun.
Okay.
But he's not the forceful type. He's not going to be like, "Get it right or I'll hit you."
Yeah, absolutely. Although he might traumatize them by telling them that their performance sucked after they put their heart and soul into it.
That's just his own daughter.
She's different than the rest. Yes, so this episode was great. I really liked the silliness. Like, at the beginning of the season, I wouldn't have guessed that Kanade would be willing to be silly and act like a gorilla. But, in this episode, she did. And I like that they work together. And I like Siren's arc. At the end of this episode, Blastoise Drum tells her, "You are no longer the boss," and then leaves. Which is interesting, because if someone had told me that Siren was going to get in trouble or there was going to be a mutiny or something to that extent, I would have expected her to have to report to the big boss, to Wario back in Minerland. But instead, it's just sort of this like informal, like, "Oh, I'm the boss now," and then he leaves. So I don't know if there's going to be like a further power play, or if Siren has been excised from the organization.
I think the minor trio unionized in order to fight against unfair working conditions.
Yeah,
and
they have more bargaining power than Siren does, really.
Yeah, what is she going to do? She's going to call up the big boss and have him send in some union-busting thugs? Like, he doesn't care. Sort out your shit, Siren.
I do think it's interesting because I don't know if we talked about it on mic, but you and I definitely, while we were watching one of the episodes, I definitely said, what does the minor trio even do? Because every episode, Siren's the one that creates the negatones, and the only thing they ever do is, like, do Team Rocket disguise type stuff. But I like them becoming characters of their own after Siren is shown to be what they believe is incompetent.
One of my favorite quotes, I've decided, by the way, that Pink and Blue are married and that Green was the best man at Blue's wedding. Okay. Yeah. That's just the vibe that I get. But Pink is sitting there and he's talking about how mean Siren is, and he goes, "She told me to shut up. My voice is to die for." You know what, man? I feel for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I do want to say, I love Setsuna's character from Fresh PreCure. But I will say that a lot of the, like, why does she serve Mobius so dogmatically never really comes up, and I was kind of expecting an episode to kind of dive into that backstory. And I think that Siren's "I've never once been held in my life," it's literally just one sentence, but it already perfectly tells you, like, this is a fantasy world where some people are just born into a world that's literal darkness or evil or whatever, and there's other people who are just born in a world that's perfectly light. So in that one sentence, we already know why Siren is mean to everyone around her, why she hates Hummy, and how she's going to be won over to the side of good. We have cuddles. We have something that the minor trio could never give you.
One thing I asked Joel while we were watching this episode was, if you had a cat that you found in the street and it followed you home and it started, like, snuggling you all the time and it really loved you, and then you found out the cat was a sentient person with a crush on you, would you be weirded out?
And had been the whole time. Because I think that's different than, like, an alien comes by and just grants it sentience. And yeah, I would feel hurt. I would feel lied to, you know?
Like, be upfront about that, Siren. OG, I am a person. I will accept being held. I am much cuter than Kanade because Kanade is a person.
I can purr in cat form, but not in my human form. But I can transform into the perfect combination of both. But yeah, no, I'm interested to see where this goes, and like I hinted to when we were talking about episode 9, obviously I'm getting the vibe that Siren is going to become the mid-season cure, and that's great. I wonder, even if she turns to the side of good, will she take on a human form at all times, or will she remain as a cat until she transforms into a human on those rare occasions where it's needed?
What would you do if you were writing this show?
I would love to see her remain as a cat. But I think that for convenience's sake, she's just going to take on the Sakura form.
Maybe she'll be a cat when she's bickering with Hummy.
Oh, yeah. Maybe she'll be kind of like Comey from Comey Can't Communicate, where when she gets surprised or whatever, the cat tail and the cat ears will come back out.
I'd love that. Oh my gosh. Her and Macaron and Sparkle. They all get together as the cat girls of PreCure. Yui.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
If we're done talking about Sweet, that's a pretty good segue into Star Twinkle.
Absolutely.
We have officially made it to episode 21 of Star Twinkle PreCure.
As in finished.
Yes, Yui/Cure Cosmo has joined the team. She has been revealed as a big ol' faker who can't transform without using special perfume. Haha, you suck.
She's just young. She'll get it eventually.
She's young, and she sucks. No, I actually really like Yui. I'm enjoying Star Twinkle a lot. I think I have a problem with how the show is handling Iwan's basically genocide of Yui's planet. There's a lot of compassion for her from the PreCure, which is normal because that's what PreCure are like. But I would expect Yui to be a little more resistant to Hikaru's, we've got to save her.
Yeah. I don't know. It would be interesting if they made a pragmatic plea to Yui, because I think we learned in episode 20 that maybe the people are still alive in their stone statue forms. And so
if we save her, maybe she can save your people.
Yeah, so like Hikari could be like, we gotta save her because I'm compassionate. And you would be like, no. And then I assume like Madoka would be the best one to say like, but consider if you save her, she might be able to help. And then over the course of the season, as they grew closer, maybe you could learn that maybe Iwan isn't as bad as she seems to be, although she seems pretty unrepentant.
Absolutely. This season is a little bit repetitive in the way that, like, we get a pen, we fight the villains, we get a power-up, we win. But I'm enjoying it. It's very colorful. I like the characters a lot. I wish that Madoka and Elena got a little bit more screen time.
Sure, yeah.
Or that it were just Hikaru and Lala with Yui as the third bonus cure. I think that sometimes the seasons with bigger teams struggle from trying to split their attention between all the characters.
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
But no, I'm enjoying it and I'm excited to continue.
Mm-hmm. At this moment, who would you say is your favorite cure? I already asked you that a little earlier in the season.
I mean, it's got to be Cure Cosmo.
Okay.
She's cat. Lala / Cure Milky
mm-hmm.
is a bigger favorite than I thought she would be.
Absolutely. Yeah. No. I've said this before, but I started the season thinking that Elena was going to be my far and away favorite, and she still is one of my favorites, but I also fell in love with Cosmo and Milky as well. Hikaru is a great pink, but I wouldn't say she's like my necessarily favorite pink, and unfortunately I do think that Madoka doesn't get quite as many episodes as she could. She has a few, but one of them didn't resonate with me at all, and the others were pretty good, but not quite enough to reach the status of the other three.
Yeah, at least she has a DILF, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like her dad. He's a terrible dad, to be clear.
He's a terrible person who should be sent to prison for his crimes of racism against aliens, but...
Clearly an alien, like, stomped on his toy train or something.
Would you like to know how much of his backstory we get?
No.
None. Oh, sorry, you said no. Editing, Joel, cut that out and erase it from Catherine's mind.
Who are you? Oh no, editing Joel went too far.
I will say that I wish that the theme of creativity was a little bit stronger. I feel like Kira PreCure All Mode, longest series title ever. I really do, I praise it so highly because I think that it did such a good job combining its themes with its characters, with the story, with the bad guys and all that stuff. Star Twinkle's still great. I love it. But Go Princess and I think Kira are like the gold standards. I
was going to say, something about Star Twinkle just isn't grabbing me quite as much as Kira did. That doesn't mean it's a bad season. It just means Kira is still top 10, like you said. Although Go Princess, praise be to Cure Flora.
One of these days we're going to come out with that ranking video and we're going to talk about all the different episodes. Once we find the time for it, of course.
Absolutely. Hey, you're starting to do YouTube essays. Maybe I could write one for the channel about why Go Princess is the greatest season.
Absolutely, yeah. I want it on my desk by whenever.
Okay, cool. I like having a boss that doesn't give me actual deadlines or...
It's an unpaid position, and I don't know when my videos are going to start going up, so we'll see. We have plans.
Fair enough.
But yeah, do you have anything else that you want to talk about Star Twinkle? Any other burning thoughts?
No, I don't think so. I really do like the villain team. I like that Capard seemed to kind of be like, is this a bit much?
Yes.
No, it's the children that are wrong.
Yes! We watched this in the Discord, and I commented, like, oh, is Darknest, our evil, or our lord, controlling Iwan's mind? Are we the bad guys? No, Capard, you're all completely in the right. But it also speaks to, like, kind of a sunk cost fallacy and, like, the once you're in so deep, you can't really get out sort of mentality. So I just think that Capard is his vision's still cloudy.
Well, and no spoilers, because we're not there yet, but the way you described Tango's arc and backstory, I'm really looking forward to it. And I like, did I say Tango? Tenjo.
Yes.
I like the way that these seasons kind of flesh out their villains. They're not just here, they're people who want stuff. And I still think Kira did a really good job of that. Probably the best of all the seasons I've seen.
I would agree.
But no, I like it.
Yeah, it's an absolutely great season, and we don't have any thoughts from the crew, really, and so I think we're going to call it here.
Absolutely. If you have an idea for a season based around animals and compassion, hit us up on Discord or Twitter, and we'll talk about it in next week's Thoughts from the Cruise.
Absolutely, and tell us what merch you would try to sell through this season. And that has been your Final Thought outro goes here. Thanks for listening, everyone, and don't forget to listen to the song in your heart.
Don't forget to PreCure. Thank you all for joining us for another delicious plateful of
Cure of the What Now.
Please take a moment to rate and review wherever you get your podcasts from.
Or if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to leave a comment, a like, or lick that subscribe bell so you know when the new episodes are going up.
Did you just say lick it?
Well, yeah, we're baking delicious foods. It's a delicious party.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at PirateGhostHost. Please don't lick me.
Can you even lick a ghost? I'm on Twitter at Cotwin_pod.
KOTWN_pod.
Absolutely. And as always, the Discord link is in the Twitter bio and also in the YouTube description.
Come join us for weekly discussions, streams, and all of the PreCure your heart can handle. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yum. Or no, I'm full.